name's Julie Winters. I'm with Friends of New Deal Cafe Arts, which is the sponsor of this art show. Thank you very much for coming out. I also want to thank the New Deal Cafe for the fabulous refreshments that they provided. Sugar, one of the managers here, just does fabulous work, so I want to acknowledge her. Great. And I'm just going to actually yield the mic. I'm going to give any of the participants who wants to an opportunity to come up and talk about participating in the show. Basically how this show worked is that we put out a call for artists and poets, and people submitted works, and when a work was accepted, like if a poem was accepted, it was assigned to an artist for creation of a new work in response. And if a piece of art was accepted, which obviously they were, we assigned those to poets for writing of poems in response. So there are original pieces and response pieces in this show. And if you haven't had a chance to look at the cards, they will tell you which came first, the art or the poem. It's very cool, I think. So anyway, I'm going to go away, and people can walk up at random and talk about participating, like I said, and the poets can also read one or both of their poems if they wish to. It's just going to be informal and free form, so I hope you enjoy.
Well done. Yeah, just read a little speech here.
You came prepared.
No, I just had to learn the names of the people who I'm associated with. So I have two paintings, and they're in the front. One is called Family Tree, and it's about a bunch of birds, because that's my family tree. So when I was 12, I did a painting of our family. I need to raise this up. And we lost the painting, so I had to do a new one. So I have a new one up front, and it's 10 birds, because we have 8 kids and 2 parents. And you notice there's a different color on each bird, because every person has their own personality. And when I redid the painting, some of them are flying, and some of them have their mouth open because they're singing or talking or whatever. So each personality is there, and so I have to look at my notes. But anyway, Christina Burgoyne wrote a beautiful poem to go with my bird painting, and I really love it. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. So that was my first one. The second one, I was given a poem written by Leanne, who I just met, Leanne Irwin, and wrote a beautiful poem called Two Dances. And this was much more difficult for me because I don't usually do people. I do things and animals. So I was going to make 2 frogs dancing, or 2 hippos dancing, or 2 trees dancing, or anything. But anyway, so it was a long process of exploration to come up with the dancers. And I was a little stuck. And my nephew had taken an art class and had a painting, and he doesn't even paint, but he got me unstuck. So he inspired me, and then I got some pictures of people doing the tango, because that's what the poet sounded like, the poem. And I got a glass of wine and a number 2 pencil, and then things just happened. So, and then when I got it, I just put it in a frame right away before anything happened to it. So those are my paintings. They're up front, the dancers and the birds. Thank you. Thank you to everybody.
Now I have to lower the microphone. I don't know if I can follow that up. I'm Christina Burgoyne. I did the poem with the birds, and then I did another poem that has a bird. I'm gonna read them. The first one I'm gonna read is the Summertime Oriole with Barb's painting. I absolutely loved it. Summertime Oriole. The summertime oriole crouched and hidden through wintered glass. We fray, fracture, fragment susurrations of verdant feathered wing, prismed prison, kaleidoscope. where come each spring upon those late breezes through open windows and through wind chimes, here tolls a bell of catching the first glimpse of sunrise to sunset, our morning of morning. And then my final poem, it was called Blue Heron. Upon blue wings you bend like the letter S, statuesque in the breeze, the shadow fading in the later afternoon sunlight. The fish are busy with their to and froing through low earthen water grasses, your beak poised and ready to hurriedly hunt for dinner. My eyes squint into the fading light. I glimpse the subtle blue of feathers creeping away from my place on shore, cries and chirps growing as you slowly crest back towards your hidden nest. Thank you.
Yeah, much better. Hi everybody, I'm Robert Birkeness. I'm one of the artists that made 2 collages here. I have one piece in the other room called Remembering, and one here on the wall, the yellow and blue one, that's called Lenore Makes a Promise. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. Thanks to Julie again for organizing such a wonderful show. I was very happy to be a part of it and to be connected with both Alex, who wrote the poem Dandelion Promises on the wall over there, and with Hiram, who wrote the poem for my piece in the other room. Very briefly, I wanted to share my experience. This is so tall, it makes me stand up. I mean, okay, there, that's probably better. I spent the month of September as an artist in residency in Germany, and I was very fortunate to be able to go to basically an abandoned train station in former East Germany. And as it turns out, it was the route that my ancestors took when they came from Russia and from Eastern Europe to go through Germany to come to the US. So it was a story that I knew through my genealogy work, but then I also got to experience it in person by being there. And when I was on location, when I was in Germany in September, and that's what motivated my piece in the other room that's called Remembering. I spent a lot of time exploring the abandoned train station and hearing what sounded like ghosts, and other artists had also heard music and talking coming from other parts of the train station when there's no people there. But mostly I wanted to experience being in a place where I knew my ancestors had come through, like about 150 years ago, so it's a long time, but I didn't know how to portray it. And one day I was with other artists and we looked on the walls of the train station and we saw ripped wallpaper and old drawings and newspapers and text and paint and cracked, rusted things. And I said, that's what I want to make. It kind of represents layers of history all in one image. And so that image in the other room, I made the prints for it. I'm a printmaker, and I layered different prints. There's a woman at the bottom of a spiral staircase, and that staircase is in the train station, and I just imagined her there at the bottom of the stairs. It's not my relative or ancestor or anybody like that. But so that was a piece called Remembering. So the second piece there I wanted to bring and talk about just very briefly. It's called Lenore Makes a Promise, and it was based on the poem Dandelion Promises. Lenore there is Lenore Thomas. She's the sculptor who made a lot of the friezes and the sculptures that are around Greenbelt. And that particular one, the woman in blue, is a drawing that I made from the woman who's outside the community center. So if you ever go there, you usually would look at her head on, like just look at her face. But I was looking at her from the side and I thought, wow, that's really a nice profile. And I wanted her to be blowing at the old dandelions. And she doesn't look like she's blowing in that image because it's more just like the sculpture itself. But there's dandelions in there and she's kind of blowing at them. And so I like to use the location where I'm at, whether it's Germany or Greenbelt, and incorporate that into my printmaking and collage work. So it meant a lot to me to carry out these projects. The one in Germany was funny. I don't know if Hiram's going to tell the story, but the print that I ended up submitting, he was here on the same day that I came to submit them, and he said, "But that's different from the one in the photo." And I said, "Yeah, very perceptive of you. There's a reason for that. All the work I did in Germany was lost. Lufthansa lost my suitcase. Yeah, so I had to recreate the painting." Yeah, there seems to be a theme there. I know the first artist said her painting was also lost. And it was sad, but I still had all the prints, the original plates, and I made new prints. So it's pretty much a copy. It's probably an improved copy. But I kind of pulled a switcheroo on Hiram, and I appreciate his flexibility because the colors changed a little bit. Anyway, thanks for listening. It was a pleasure to be a part of it.
Here we go. Hello, I'm Alex Kerrigan. I'm one of the poets here today. Robert created a piece based on my poem Dandelion Promises, and I also created 2 poems, Yard Sale, based on Leslie Clapp's Counting Crows, right back there, and then a poem, La Paz, after Jose Valcarcel's Aymara Temporality, which is in the other room. This is my second time also being part of this show. It was so great last year, and you just had to come back and do it again, see what came up. I don't have a whole lot to say about the pieces. Dandelion Promises was kind of I'm in transit, I'm sitting around, let me write something. And that style of poem, the duplex, is one of my go-tos for when I just have a simple idea and want to build a poem around it. And you know, like most of my writing this year, I wrote it while sitting in a queer bar in DC waiting for a drag show to start. So, great inspiration. So this year I was given 2 pieces to respond to, and that presented its own challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. Well, for one, I kept bringing the pieces back to my weekly virtual poetry group. So I got a lot of comments on the art, got a lot of compliments, like, Leslie, you should know, one person absolutely loved Counting Crows. Like, she voiced that every time it came up. And, yeah. Counting Crows was very interesting. I mean, I love mixed media pieces. I love all the parts of it, like the CDs, the beats, and you know, you think like, oh, these are all things we throw away. You know, they're all kind of going out the window, but they're creating something new. You know, what does that mean? Like, why are these things being tossed out? So I tried to think of that and imagined this sort of collapsing relationship. So that was very fun. As for Aymara Temporality, absolutely wonderful piece, but that presented its own challenge. I mean, how do you write about a city you've never been to? How do you write about something you didn't even know existed? Like, I'd never heard of La Paz before this. But that piece is so fantastic because it gives so many specific images, it gives so many visuals that it helps the research. Like, you know, what's the cable car? Like, what's that line about? What the woman? Like, you know, what are those pieces of clothing she's wearing? Like, is it a style? Is it a culture? I learned a lot about that, and also, coincidentally, one person in my poetry group, she actually studied there for 6 months, so she verified and gave me a lot of information, so that was really helpful. Anyways, I've talked too much, but to close it out, I'll at least read Dandelion Promises, since that's a very quick one. I'll open the door for promises on dandelion seeds, for oaths that can be carried in a single exhale. A single exhale says more than the silence after, kicks and stomps through fields of dandelions. Dandelions can hold wishes in light abundance, but too many of them will fail to return to the earth. The earth can hold only so many wishes, so we pull out promises as a compromise, root and stem. The roots and stems of dandelions can make bitter tea, bitter as unfulfilled wish or broken promise. The weight of a broken promise lays on my doormat in a pile of dandelion seeds, leaving deep imprints I haven't seen since you last left home, so I'll open the door for promises on dandelion seeds. Thank you very much.
I have a group of friends, and every time they visit, they bring me something that I could make art. And one day, one of them called me and said, do you know that there was somebody that had a grand piano and they were taking it apart piece by piece? so there would be something. So when I got there, it was all the felt piano keys. The crows are made of the black keys on the piano and the felts. And when I was playing with them, they looked like birds. The window is something somebody was going to throw out, so it belonged to me. And the CDs are, I have a lot of CD art that my grandchildren made. And so it is just all scraps that turned into something. And I have to ask for a show of hands. Has anybody ever heard the Counting Crows rhyme except me? Well, you have, because I told you. You guys are good. Somebody else, I thought I was like, I remember looking it up. And if you look at it, it's 1 crow's sorrow, 2 crows joy, 3 crows a girl, 4 crows a boy, 5 crows silver, 6 crows gold. And then my grandchildren whisper, 7 for a secret that's never been told. So that's where junk can become art.
I know you know your way around the mic.
And while you're up here, Julie, let's all thank Julie for organizing the show. Yes. I'm Hiram LaRue, and as Robert said, I had the honor pleasure of writing a piece to his collage. Like Alex, I think Alex said you had 3 pieces here in the show. Yeah, I've got 3 pieces. 1 photograph, which is back in the hallway, of a kind of a weed seed flower that is in a glare. And I mentioned that one because I believe, Julie, is it correct that pretty much all the artwork is for sale? Is that right? I think so. I'm sorry?
Most of it.
Most of them, not maybe all of them, but...
It's on the card, so...
Okay, okay. And that particular photograph, what I'd like to do is, if it's sold, donate all the proceeds to anti-hunger organizations. So if you're at all interested, just check with me or let Julie know. Then I was also honored to write a piece to Robert's collage out in that room. And then I believe Robert's partner spouse did a piece of artwork to a poem that I had submitted. So I think I'll read those two poems. This is the one that I wrote to Robert's piece that was lost and then he recreated. I love that story. And when I looked at the piece, the collage, I hope you would agree, it kind of put me in a little bit of a dream state. So this piece tends to be a bit surreal, but hopefully does connect with Robert's beautiful piece. It's titled Leaning Whispers. The question is, how would you dream like this and never mind the blue? Don't you want to go anywhere that's coming next so surely? Yes, maybe you've seen the rills and roves and lingered in some shade, even sung unto. And yes, you may have felt the gauze of loss or waned the moon. But here's your chance to imagine days that lean towards every whisper. So go on, climb through time beyond for views. Sleep and hope that your edges dream about a lovely rust that's new. I've mentioned rust because there's a wonderful kind of a rust colored, and I think in his piece, and I believe when I met you here when we were bringing our work in, you said something about the rust color, and I hadn't picked up on the notion that it was a rust color, so that had to go into the poem. And then this piece over here, your wife's name is Suzanne? Suzanne, yeah. So Suzanne did this piece right here on the, by the door. And this is a poem about, well, it's a love poem to poetry. A love poem to poetry. It's titled Senses More Of. What I would give for a poem's line to love me, to wake me unknowing with what time it is, and hum words of purple for me, or write what's new by rise. What I would do for that kind of love that shies for sounds, or rhymes more of me than I have. I would vow so my heart, so my days, and any phrases to say as much if I could. Yes, for that gift of once, I would pledge my dreams and bounds for the chance to wake beside a poem's shoulder. Thanks very much. Thanks again to Julie.
I am wearing my heels. Thank you. So I always have to bring my poet up with me because I'm a chicken. Even though I was a theater major, you'd think I'd be fine on the stage. I'm not. I need my teddy bear over here. So Leslie wrote a poem that I knew about because she had contacted me and said, hey, I'm going to submit some poems to the Ekphrastic. Which one do you think I should submit? I'm like, they're all really good. And then when one of hers was paired with me, I couldn't speak to her, look at her, talk to her for the month while we prepared our pieces because I knew I'd give it away. And she was surprised when she saw that it was my piece. So I was just wondering if I can ask you, did it look like your poem?
Yes. 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 She,
Elaborate.
I stood and looked at it before she told me, and I was like, wow, that whoever made this piece of art got that right, the horses and the soccer ball and all the stuff on it right. And then I looked over and she was like trying not to laugh. So, and I was clued in that she was the one that made the piece.
Yes. Then I had to turn it over to prove it to her because she didn't believe it at the time. The funny thing is that Kristen Weaver's parents, Ken and Paulette, were sitting on the other side of the table, and they knew what was going to happen because Leslie was a little late meeting me. At any rate, he took out his camera and was taking photos. So we have a really beautiful moment of her reaction to that. It's very sweet. Leslie and I have been friends for years, and it's just very sweet that she and I were paired together. So, yes, you're done. You can go. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Leslie. Annie isn't here, but I contacted her daughter, Annie, to ask her about the favorite colors of Leslie's grandchildren and children so that I could incorporate them because family is such a big part of her and her world and that poem. So the initials are in there, and Annie gave me the favorite colors of the girls and David's shirts, which apparently is the only color we got wrong. It's not dark blue and gray, it's orange. So I'm gonna have to take a little marker and fix that for them. So Leslie, it was a joy to create a piece for you. It was a true pleasure. It was really fun. The other piece that I made was paired with a poet who I just met today, Leanne Irwin, and it was a pleasure to speak with you. I blathered on about what I did with my collage and not about what I thought about what you wrote, so I'd like to mention, and you prefer to remain there, not keep me company. If you'd like to keep me company, feel free. Oh yeah, come on up.
Julia.
Thank you. I do. I feel so much better when I'm with my pal. Thanks for coming up, Leanne. So we just met for the very first time today, and I explained a little bit about that piece, which I'd created about 25 years ago and made some adjustments because some pieces broke before I submitted it. So last minute adjustments were made the night before it was delivered here.
So again, it looked different than when I wrote the poem. Not dramatically, but a little bit.
That just occurred to me. I didn't tell you. I didn't send you a.
I didn't know.
You might have.
Until I saw it.
Yeah, you might have.
What's remarkable, I'm sorry if I didn't, but what's remarkable is you captured so much about what that intention was. You really did, especially the last line, the muddle of life. It's exactly what that is. It's just my little pieces of canary curiosity, putting it together in a piece and going, all right, that looks all right. Like
Well,
it felt right.
the last line is about the bird coming out of all of that white bird on the blue light glass. So despite everything, there's the bird coming forward, coming out.
It had to be central.
Yeah.
It's all junk that I found on walks with my dogs in Baltimore alleys. And the funny thing is, what you were mentioning, it didn't occur to me either from a poet's standpoint. When you all see the pieces that you are to write about, it's not 3D. You're seeing an image. So we see a poem, which is itself one-dimensional and standard. It's on the paper. But you had no idea of the depth or the detail or the changes, sorry. But when we talked about the bird earlier, you didn't know what the bird was resting on, what you thought was a white wisp or a cloud in your poem. And it's cracked automotive windshield glass that I found on the alley. So it looked kind of like a sky. I can see why it was perfect. But it's really cool to see what you wrote without seeing the piece 3D. And 3D, the dimensionality of that is pretty crucial to the piece. So
Yeah, I would say out of the show, it's the most because there's so many depths to your piece. So thank you for challenging me.
I'm so sorry. I need to, if I change a piece, I need to make certain everybody's aware. But I loved what you did with
Great,
that
I'm
piece.
so glad.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. And thanks for coming up. I appreciate that.
There's a step in the front. I didn't see that. I didn't see that. Yeah, for everybody else, there's a step right there. That's good. Hello. So I'm Jose Valcarcel. I think there was a mention of one of my artworks. So one of mine is outside, and has the indigenous Aymara woman. It's called Aymara Temporality. And it's funny because I took that photo of her probably 14 years ago, and I kept messing with what I wanted to do with it for so long, trying to figure out what I just knew I loved her in that photo and looking at her phone. But it took a while for me and actually a second visit to La Paz, to fully realize, how much it said about that city. And that's what I was trying to sort of capture with the piece by putting different aspects of that city and how the culture of the Aymara people is in this city that's a modern city. And, I think a lot of times here in the States when we think about South America and other countries, we don't realize just how modern and how much their culture shows the modern lifestyle that they live and how much it influences that. Right, so that's what I was sort of aiming for it. I'm not 100% sure it's finished yet, and there's maybe more I need to do with it. I have so many photos from when I've been there. So I'm probably still going to be continuing to play with it, and part of it is I was also trying to get more into the wheat paste aspect of it. So while it's made for being indoors, it is done in the style of when you go out to the street and you put posters up, and it's made out of the flour and water, and it's a natural glue, the idea being that eventually it's going to wear off and it's not permanent either, and it's a constantly changing thing, kind of like how the city of La Paz is. So that's the first piece out there, and the second piece, which is right here with the guitar on it, is based on the Sardasso Sea by is it Joey Campfire? Yeah. Is that the right? Amazing name. I don't know if you're here. Yeah, right. You're great name. I love that. But I struggled with that at first because I'm not I'm as an architect. I take a lot of photos of buildings, and a lot of the art I've always done, very rectilinear, very much about like buildings. So as I looked through my library of photographs from the past 20 to almost 25 years, I noticed I did have a lot of photos of the ocean. I did have a lot of photos of birds, and but I still struggle because I know they talked about the guitar, and I'm not a very musical person, but I know a family, and they're actually here, a family who's all about music, and Lobo right there, he is a great musician. If you guys don't know him, he's a great musician. He told me he had a guitar, and he wasn't using it anymore, so like taking it apart and putting it back
That's
together.
A real friend.
Yes. Yeah, and if you ever want to, we'll have to get your information to people so they can come listen to your music. But I connected at that point with the idea of making, sort of going through life and things that have touched you in one way, but turning that into making something and painting, creating art. So I guess that's where I sort of went with it, and the taking apart of the guitar and then putting it back together and adding the birds and painting them as well, because I purposely printed them all black and white so that I would have to paint on the birds themselves. It really, I guess I could feel what the person in the poem was feeling and how therapeutic that was for them. So in that sense, I connected very much with the poem, so thank you so much for that. And thank you, Lobo, and his family, because they're the best musicians I know. So thank you so much.
Can you hear it through the... So this is called Sargasso Sea. It's the poem with the guitar on it. And you nailed some of the images for sure, as you guys will soon find out. But it starts with the bell. So and there's a part of it where there's an audience participation.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very simple. All you have, can you guys go, ooh? There you go. That's all you gotta do. All right, so go ahead. It starts. You don't know because I'll do it, and you guys can just join in. Go ahead. Kind of like, sort of more mellow. You're out at sea, you know. Yeah. In the last desperate days of the war, worn out with our backs against the wall, we pushed our boys out of planes with no parachutes, bombs, or anything, so the enemy know how serious we were. And after the war I wandered, looking for a place to settle down. And I planted my flag on this platform that I built in the Sargasso Sea. And I'm sitting on a big box of money with my rifle. I spend most of my days on this wide open sea, catching birds and playing my guitar. I paint the birds and let them fly away, and write a new song almost every day. And skeleton ships drift by, lost through the centuries. Their crews cry, hey, what ho, hey. in the Sargasso Sea. I spend most of my days catching birds and playing my guitar. I paint the birds and let them fly away and write a new song almost every day. Something like that. Yeah, I felt like you really nailed that, like the being on a platform, and it is a lot about the creative process, you know, being alone way out at sea on some random platform and like writing songs and painting birds and stuff like that. And you know, you got all those those elements definitely in there for sure. I did for my poem. Can you hand me this phone that's over down there? Thanks. For my poem that I wrote in response to an artwork was Alan right there, and it was an interesting process because in it there are no people, and so like my preference for artwork is to have people in it. You know, landscapes are one thing, and I wasn't really sure, you know, where to go with it. So I thought about it for a while, and then just one morning it came to me what I wanted to say. And it sort of goes back, your name's Robert? Were you talking about a train station or something that was empty and had ghosts or something like that? Were you alone on that platform or something? Or what was the deal with that story?
No, I stayed in Germany. I stayed at an abandoned train station for about a month.
At an abandoned train station for about a month.
There were other people around.
Right. Well, I mean, it's sort of a great segue for the poem. Because the picture is of basically what I interpret as being an abandoned train station. There's nobody around, you know, and it's just looking down this tracks. There's no train. There's nothing. Anyway, it's called Next Destination. When the station has no manager, posted schedule, or people at all, you may think for a moment that somehow you missed the apocalypse as you stand alone on the dead platform, wondering whether a train is coming or is long since gone. But then you hear a bird somewhere in the trees that line the tracks and see children running out of a not-so-distant house to play in the fenced yard. And you breathe deeply once, maybe twice, as a train pulls into the station to take you to your next destination. So, yeah, I think I've been in a situation very similar where it's not I've been in a train station where there's no one around, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here, you know? And other places where where I've been alone, and there should be people, and there should be sounds, and there's nothing, and you almost feel like you've missed the apocalypse, the end of the world, you know? And then something happens and everything's all right once again. And so that's sort of where Alan's picture took me, and I really appreciated doing that. It was really, it was nice. Anyway, so thanks a lot. Oh, let's hear it for Jose on the Seabell. On the Seabell. And you guys for your ghostly sort of sounds. Very perfect. Next up.
So the train station picture was taken years ago. It was just like a couple of days after there was a derailment of that's Kensington, although it's really anywhere you want it to be. And it was so hot that day. It was like you could just almost see you could see vibrations like you could see on the street. And the original picture wasn't that color, and the sun was coming through the trees, and everything looked like it was kind of had that energy. So the actual picture, then I do things with Photoshop, so I changed the colors, and then Joe took it the rest of the way. So that's the awesome thing about this, is that whether it's a poem or an image, somebody else is going to take it and do something with it that you never would have imagined, but at the same time it's really awesome what they do with it. And I'm just meeting, what was your name again, I'm sorry? Yes. Who did the poem that I did the little image to. And I had a drawing, so I didn't totally do it from scratch, but it wasn't even filled out. And just I think in the same vein of the picture, I try not to give too much. You want the imagination to kind of take over. So I do a lot of abstract art. I'm also self-conscious because I can't possibly draw like that. And that's about it. I have a third piece, which is the herons out in front. And just really fast, I actually go out to nature and take walks and like looking at herons. And just 1 week ago at the Patuxent Research Center at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because I was off for the day, we're out there wandering around by the pond. There was a heron doing the whole thing, every now and then having lunch. And then waited, and then it flew off, and it's huge and beautiful, and thank you for writing the poem.
So my name is Lori Grigsby, and I did the conversation, which is the crow there, in response to a wonderful poem that I received. I'm not sure, is the person here who did the poem? No. Oh, I just love the poem so much, and it brought up so much imagery, the idea of the conversation the person was having with the tree, and the birds were having with each other, and the sort of existential conversation involved in the poem really brought a lot of things out for me at the time. And I also did the large painting, Sipping from Hope's Fountain, of the hummingbird with the flower in the front. And I love the poem that you did so much. And I'm just grateful to be a part of this. You have a wonderful community here. And I live in D.C., so I'm happy to be out here with all you hippies. And I'm just a weirdo who paints and plays music, but you guys are really great. And you have such a welcoming, warm community. And I always feel so inspired when I come here. So thank you very much. And thank you, Julie and Meg. Thank you all very much.
All right. Is there anybody? I feel like everybody that I recognized as a participant has spoken. Did I leave anybody out? Am I missing anything? Anybody? Nope? Okay. In that case, I am going to say thank you again to everybody who came out today, and thank you to all the participants in the show. This show wouldn't happen if people weren't interested in participating, so you guys made this show, so thank you very much for bringing your wonderful creations to this audience, and hope to see you again next year, and happy holidays, and thanks Video Cafe.